Knights at the Round Table, a round table discussion on speculative fiction books and film. Hi everybody and welcome to the next episode of Knights at the Round Table Season 5. Today we are discussing the second in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, Deadhouse Gates. I'd like to start with general impressions of the book. I'm sitting here with Eric and with Garth, and Garth, you haven't been here for a bit, so I'm going to start with you.
Well,
just this book though, not the series, just this book.
I read this book about a year ago, on your recommendation, actually. I started the series.
No bitterness in that tone.
I love this series and I'm not sad about it.
We sat down at CanCon one day and we started talking about the book series, and I told you that I had only gotten like the 5th or 6th book and was completely lost. And you recommended that I start at the beginning.
Yeah, this was us waiting for pitches, right?
Start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
And I did. So I got the first book, started reading, and burned through the series in a couple months. And I have opinions. This book I liked when I read it the first time. I was really into the series at that point, but my outlook has soured as I have gone through the series, and it racks up more and more and more negatives and fewer positives. And nothing changes in style or tone between this book and the last book. It's consistent throughout, so that's not really a problem. The writing never drops in quality. It's always good quality all the way through. I cannot complain about the quality of the writing in this series. I can complain about a lot of other things, though. This book, I was reminded recently, I did rate it, I think, on Goodreads as a 3 out of 5. And on its own, it deserves that. It's fairly good as it is, but as part of a larger series, it kind of becomes problematic for me.
Okay.
Because of what happens later. I will say it is good setup to bad follow through.
Okay. Eric?
This book was a slog for me. Mm-hmm. I say it's because it's 800 pages, but that's a total lie. I read through Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange in like 3 weeks. So it's not the size of the book, it's the style of book. I don't like military fantasy, and I really don't like epic fantasy on paper. So this was not my style. Garth's right. The quality of the writing, when it comes to narrative interlacing in this, is absolutely fantastic. The quality of the prose is shockingly good. It avoids the I call it the epic fantasy pet peeves or fetishes. So we've got George R. R. Martin, who will spend a chapter describing food and how lovely it is and the glistening golden, which has nothing to do with the story. We've got Tolkien and his rocks and trees. This, he has it, but it's brief. It's the history and the archaeology that will randomly go off, which is also a bad thing because it tends to be more interesting than what's going on when he brings it up. They'll be walking through the desert for 10, 20 pages. Walking through the desert. Oh, sand. Oh, mythical flies that burrow into your skin and leave poisonous larvae or something. And then pottery. Ooh, ancient civilization. Ooh, why aren't I reading about this? It's not a bad book, but it's not. It's a very good book, but it's not my thing.
It is my thing. It's my thing all the way through. I love this book. I love this series. I keep saying it. Anytime anybody's like, I'm looking for a good book to read, I'm always like, have you read the Malazan Book of the Fallen series yet? Have you? You really need to. It's really, 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 really good.
Which I would not do with any book I have ever read.
Oh, really?
No, because
I actually
people's
would.
tastes have such different variants.
Oh yeah, no, that
If someone goes, I need a good book to read, and I'm like, what do you like to read?
yeah.
Because
no.
if you're like my wife who loves, no, actually, she loves epic fantasy, so she might like this. Not so much the babies on pikes and
Yeah.
crucified children.
Yeah. So for me, this I liked pretty much everything about this, and even those archaeological / anthropological diversions that he goes on, because that's my area of interest.
No, those
in
are
real life.
really interesting.
They're fascinating to me, so I don't mind those divergences from the actual narrative that's
I
going
really
on.
appreciated them. As opposed to another 5 pages of Felison's inner angsty monologue about how much she misses Benneth.
Yeah, fuck Felison. Anyway, I would have liked
No,
better
no,
if they
not
had-
fuck Felison. That's the whole point.
To be honest, if my sister sold out my family and then sold me into slavery, I don't think I would be in a very great frame of mind either.
Absolutely
no,
not.
It's perfectly understandable that she's just a little whiny bitch.
Oh god, let's put you in
15-year-old.
that
the
situation.
problem I have with Felison is that all the character development she goes through in this book is washed away by the next time we see her.
Okay, yeah.
Really?
Good setup, bad follow through.
They've got the a lot of sequels do that in movies. He's a super badass at the end of the movie, and then the next movie he has to relearn all his martial arts or whatever.
Or something.
Well, that's because
Anyway.
he has to have an arc, or else
Of
it's
course.
Well,
This is John Wick. Just go with it.
The transporter.
I loved this book. There isn't one of the series that I haven't really liked. There are those that I've liked less, but I still really like. I haven't finished the series, of course, but I still really like it.
Warning. All the characters you loved, except maybe 1 or 2 from the last book, are not in this one.
That's true. But they are in the next one.
But not in the one after that.
Nope. Spoilers.
No, that's okay.
He
I've read up
alternates.
there. Yeah, he does.
He's
He does.
mentioned it in person.
There's a
It's not that they
lot
alternate.
happening
A
in.
bunch of them are dead.
That too. It just, there was this epic, this is another pet peeve I have with epic fantasy. It's the, look, we've got these wonderful characters, blah, 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 blah. Big bad. Winter is coming. The army of Pollux? I don't remember what they're called in this. They mentioned in the first book. It's this epic war that is coming that Animander Rake
Decim Ulta.
Sure, Animander Rake and all the other people have to get together, and there's all these machinations. Let's just forget about that for 4 books.
Is it the Panion Doman?
Yes,
That's
Companion
it.
Doman. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
The Polar, whatever.
Book 3.
That. But that's one of my, it's not weaved through. It's mentioned like 5 times in the first book and then once in this one. And that's it.
But there's a lot happening in the Empire.
Yes, absolutely. But there's a reason there's 6 series in the Malazan world.
Yeah. Because there's a lot happening
There's
in
a
the
lot
Empire.
happening in the Empire. And some characters from the other series go in and out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I don't like is if someone is reading one series, they should be able to get the full context of what is going on with those characters. It's really cute to have...
Unless they don't really figure that much in the story.
Then they shouldn't be there.
That's not true.
You've got 800 pages. If the characters are in it for 5 of them as a hoo, and they never come back...
Or not even necessarily. That's the part that they had to play in this particular part of the story of the Empire. I'll fight you on this.
And it could have been done in their book.
Yeah, so then you would have them come over to another storyline in that book, and the readers of that book would be like, well, what's happening over here?
I got to agree with Eric on this one.
When you have this much, you don't need to add in more.
Pointless characters are not good for your narrative. And yes, they might have their own fantastic story going on somewhere else, but that's not this book. So they're just pointless characters. Now, some of the later characters that are in those other series, in the later books, actually do
show up.
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
The Crimson Guard, or whatever they are. They
The Red
actually,
Blades?
when they...
Red Blades, yeah.
No, not the Red Blades. The Red Blades are strictly this stuff.
Oh.
The Crimson Guard, who you hear about in the first book,
Yeah, you do.
and you
They
hear
mentioned
about...
it in this one.
They actually
they?
show up in later. They're part of another series set in the same world. But they actually do something in a later book.
Okay.
As opposed to just show up, say hi, and then leave for no good, no reason. Now there are other characters that have nothing to do
What
with
about
anything that show up.
The Golden Trio?
They're not a trio anymore.
They are throughout the book.
Which Golden
What's his
Trio?
name? The boat people.
Oh,
The
Stormy,
three soldiers.
Gessler, and Truth?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
No,
They
Sorry,
show up
them.
later. Yes, I get that. But if they didn't, they'd be utterly useless. The Jag and the Trell are really cool storyline, but it feels like it should have been its own book.
Yeah,
because
except
really
that it
didn't
happens
affect
concurrently.
it. So
Alright.
it didn't really affect that much of what happened here.
I got problems with Ikariam.
I like
You mean
Ikariam.
superpowered man who will destroy the entire
Superpowered
universe?
Jag?
unless-
Amnesiac Man?
Yeah.
Who is utterly useless this entire book series. And oh yeah.
Okay.
There's a mosquito.
She doesn't agree with me because she loves his character.
No, I like a lot of the characters in the book.
And him and Mappo Trell. And they are
Were they in the first book?
no, they're not. They're mentioned in the first
They're
book.
mentioned.
Because there was a pair of people walking through the desert in the first book,
Oh,
but that was
their name. Sorry.
that was one that was anti-magic. Was that a Tilan?
Tilani Mas. That
No.
might have been Tool, the nameless
That was
one.
Tool.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was Onos Tulin.
Yeah.
For a while, I thought it was him, but then I
love
thought
Onos Tulin.
he died.
He's one of my
and then-
favorites.
He did. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter. Yeah, no.
He is dead. No, all the Tilani Mas are dead.
No, I thought
Sort
he
of.
died.
There are
undead.
exceptions.
I thought he had been destroyed in the final battle in the
Oh.
first book.
Oh.
Oh.
That's what I meant.
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
He's
no.
not dead.
Tool shows up in book 3 in Memories of Ice.
Yes.
Okay. So, anyone who is interested in reading this book or the series, I want to give you a little bit of a primer on how to read them. The first 200 pages, go with it and do your best to try to remember who people are. Do not even glance at the back pages where they tell you who people are, because they don't tell you who people are. They'll be like, Kalan, a soldier of the Bridge Burners. And you're like, woo, that's a great description, thanks.
So
Just 200 pages. I'm not done.
Sorry.
Then once those 200 pages are done, the story will start happening. Then the next 200 to 300 pages, independent stories, then they collide, intersect, affect each other, and then it goes into 100 last pages of boom, 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 boom. Everything is cleared up really well with a bow, except for a few little things.
Yeah, I would say the Malazan Book series.
The 2 first books are like that. I haven't read the rest, but it seems very formulaic in its style.
So the Malazan Book series are more of a line than they are a tapestry, is the way that I would say.
That is true. The Deadhouse Gates, I would say, is actually one of the most siloed of the books.
Probably because of
Where
the
there's
dogs.
the least crossover between the different stories.
That's because
happening.
90% of the characters in this die horribly.
Oh, it gets worse.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
it's an empire at war. You can't. expect
100% of one storyline of main characters dies completely. Yes, I realize one of them is brought back to life in the next book.
Yes,
but
yes.
the Chain of
The
Dogs
Chain of
storyline,
Dogs,
no
everybody
one
dies.
survives.
Well,
That's
minor
actually-
characters do.
No one important that we know of for sure
Nil and
survives.
Nether survive.
Yeah.
Who?
Nil and Nether.
Nil and Nether, the two
warlocks.
Wiccan warlocks.
Okay, if you can call that survival.
Sorry. A bunch of the minor characters in that do survive. All the Wiccans are dead, of course.
All the Wiccans, except for this...
Coltane, Dweeker.
Coltane.
They're all...
Dweeker comes
he
back.
comes back.
But I don't remember any of the, what do you call them, refugees being important.
Oh, except for the noblemen who made life unnecessarily difficult.
Didn't he die?
The noblemen, plural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
They make it.
Yeah, they make well.
Well, except for that one guy.
Duiker does kick one guy's head in, deservedly.
Yeah, no, they were all useless twats, but...
Yeah.
They were pretty much the nobles in any fantasy book.
Any fantasy book with nobles is going to have these guys.
Yeah.
And,
But,
you know, I'd say it's totally unrealistic, but then I look at politics right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Entitled people who think that you should be doing stuff for them. They exist
And them alone,
everywhere.
yeah. And screw everyone else. Yeah.
And that, yeah, no, the Chain of Dogs actually was one of, I think, the best parts of this book.
Yeah, I would argue that it's so
the
far
tightest.
It's my favorite story in the Malazan series, the
It
Chain
is
of Dogs saga.
also could have been done in 400 pages and stripped all the other storylines out, and I think it would have been a much stronger book.
Yeah,
Here's
but
my
there's a
problem.
bigger arc happening there.
There is a bigger arc happening. The Chain of Dogs is a great story of, you know, fighting through this, persevering, and it sets up plot threads that are utterly dropped by the end of the series. Just thrown to the wind, as if they don't matter.
To the whirlwind?
No!
Wop wop!
That would be great if it was that way, because then they would actually do something. But no. And everything that is accomplished in the Chain of Dogs is...
-2. So, carry on.
Carry on.
Everything that is accomplished in the Chain of Dogs is wiped out later in the series.
Do they explode some kind of nuclear magical weapon in Eren and destroy everyone?
No.
Okay.
Eren's fine. Everything's fine. But you know what?
Everything is not fine.
Everything is not fine. Here, spoilers. The fact that the Chain of Dogs happened is and you know how the Wiccans was like awesome sauce and just saved everybody. That is turned around to make the Wiccans the bad guys to justify a genocide of their entire.
Yeah, it's meant that
race.
that's set up at the end of this book.
Yeah, it is.
And I was like, ugh.
And it happens.
Of course.
And nobody stops it, and nobody does anything about it. Nobody even really kind of thinks it's a bad idea. I mean, it really gets rough. They set up the Gistel priest as the dude who betrays them all from the city. He's a bad guy, right? So he gets sent to Malaz City, and he's like, oh, he's a traitor. He's going to be, nope, he gets to be in charge. He's now the boss.
And Lasine does that a lot.
No. Lasine's dead at that point.
What?
Oh, is she?
What?
She dies off screen.
What?
He's a Gistel's priest, right?
I don't know what that means.
Of course you don't, because it's never explained in this book.
Very little is explained in this book,
very little
and
is
when it is,
explained.
expect it to be wrong.
You know when it gets explained? Book 8 or 9 is when it gets explained. That Gistel is another word for a certain god, Mael, the god of the sea. And Mael... Yeah.
Oh, yeah! Okay.
So this guy is working for Mael, who is one of the best characters in the series. And he's ostensibly a good guy, so what the fuck is going on?
Lots of plot twists. Lots of
plot
people
twists.
having
Never
playing
explained,
games. No.
Never explained. Never brought up again.
After reading the first 2 books, I am not surprised that a few threads get completely lost. It would almost take 2 books of coming down in order to
You would need
fix
a
everything.
debriefing. You would need a debriefing.
It makes me think of, and I don't think that would actually, it might read well. Just like chapter, character's name, this is what happened to them. Chapter, character's name, 2,000 pages later.
I mean, that's what the wiki is for, though, isn't it?
No, the wiki
But the
sucks.
wiki can only take off what is in the books.
And
if the books don't explain what happens to people.
And the wiki doesn't explain things in Erikson's language. The only thing that kept me reading this book was how well written the prose and the pacing was.
Yeah.
The wiki's like, this person does this, and then it goes to this, and does this, and this, and this, and there's like 18 links. It's like freaking reading a French dictionary. French dictionaries are notorious for having, to know what this means, check out this word. And you go check that word. Oh, it means this word, and you go check that. And you're at an endless loop of TV tropes.
Yeah, I want to just add a little bit of fangirl to the style that this book is written in. I love the way Erikson uses language. I adore it. I envy it because I don't think I'll ever get to that level. But I think he uses language beautifully, and it keeps me reading.
He uses language and pushes it right to almost purple and then pulls back.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
He's got a beautiful way of making things almost poetic.
It is a little over the top with vistas and archaeology and pottery.
No, more archaeology. More.
No, more archaeology. Less like pretty descriptions of a red pot.
But that's part of archaeology.
Yeah, I know, but
Sorry,
I
I'm picking fights.
I found it serviceable.
You found it serviceable.
It was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything to make my heart go pitter patter at the prose.
Oh, see,
It
it did that for me.
serviceable. It worked. The problems, but that's not what I focus on. That's never what I focus on.
Oh, it's not what I focus on, but I do
mentioned
notice
it before. No, he doesn't notice it. Remember previous panels? He's mentioned language, not his thing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
I don't focus on the beauty of the prose. I focus on characters, and that's where I get the biggest plot and characters, and that's where I have the biggest problems with these because I find that Erikson does not write people well.
Oh, I disagree.
I find that
He writes some people well, if they're not important, or if they're not in the main viewpoint. Like Coltane, you never see from his point of view, and he comes off as awesome. Fiddler, totally not important. He seems like the plot has
I will
nothing to
disagree
do with
you
him.
strenuously. Fiddler's the most important person in the series.
Okay,
In this book, however.
but he totally Samwises, in which, oh, well, he's not really important, but he's freaking awesome. He has development, he has everything. Same with Culp. Really cool character.
He
But-
wrote Mappo and Icarium brilliantly. That friendship is something that always breaks my heart.
Yes, that's a really great...
found that they all acted identically.
Oh, I don't
found
think so at all.
that they're like he had character types that would act
Oh.
slightly differently, but for the most part, they all have the same dreary tone to them.
He
it's
has,
not
all
a
are just
light book.
5 males, 3
Constantly
females.
navel gazing every chance they got. Like nobody in this book. Okay, the first time you find a character who is having any fun in these books is like book 6 when Tehel Bedek shows up, and he is the hands down best character in the entire
Croup
series.
has a lot
Croup
of fun.
has a lot of fun.
And Fiddler
Iscarol
loves
Past-
blowing shit up.
No,
Oh yeah,
that's
Iscarol Past was having a lot of fun.
Iscarol Pust is trying too hard, first of all. But
Oh yeah, but
he's not having any fun. He's just being a lunatic, and that's fine. I actually
enjoyed
liked
the
Iscarol Pust
lunacy.
quite a bit.
Yeah, it was fun for us. I don't think he was having fun. I think he was going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, in his head the entire time.
Well, no, because
No.
everything in his head comes out his mouth. So
Yeah.
Good point. His subconscious, then?
that's his character type. Almost all of the main characters are just these constant navel-gazing, like dreary people who have pretty much the same thoughts about everything and about how everything sucks, and cannot put any of their thoughts into action for the freaking life of them.
If Duiker would just fucking write! Pardon my
Duiker?
language. Yes. Freaking historian who keeps saying, I'm going to write, but never does anything but a list of dead people.
So they're
which he
all
gives up
sitting there the entire book going, I'm terrible, and I can't, like, and these terrible things are happening, and I could be better if I just did this, and then never does it.
on. Except for Mappo, I think.
No, Mappo spends the entirety of his time in the books fucking up. Just one way after another. He's wandering. At this point in the book, it's this early Mappo. This is before his character development. And yes, they do have character development, even as I'm saying that they're
Very
all
good,
essentially boring.
Good
people.
arcs.
But the Mappo goes through this where he starts off just doing his job. And he's Icarium's friend, but that's his job, is to be Icarium's friend and to keep him from figuring out that he's a monster. And just
Keep the rage contained.
Because, well, spoilers again, Icarium's a weapon that people are just holding around. And he's a person, but he's got no memory because he's an idiot and did stupid things.
When he explodes, he loses his memory from it.
No, well,
it's basically, for him, violence is like drinking. He just keeps going. and then
Icarium is a
forgets.
dude who, in the past, had daddy issues.
That's
And
fair.
because of his daddy issues, he ripped a hole in time and space and broke his own brain in the process.
Yeah.
He pissed off the Azanth, whatever the hell they
Azanth?
The
are.
houses of Zath, he didn't piss off. He tried to break one open.
Yeah, and that pissed them off, and they want him back.
Well, they want him...
They want him contained.
They want him contained because that's their job. They exist to contain threats.
Yeah.
And he's a huge
He's a
threat.
huge
Yeah.
threat. Yeah.
Because he'll just wipe out civilizations whenever he loses his shit.
So as much as you're right that he has very limited characters, it kind of makes sense because for the men, they are all literally the same background. So there's the two historians, there's the soldiers, there's the savage soldiers, then there's the wizards. They're all archetypes. You're right. The women, however, this book, I don't remember the first one well enough, but this book did not pass the Bechdel test in the least on screen.
Do two women ever actually talk to each other in this book?
Yes. In the background, the sisters talked, I think, in like a flashback. Felicin and her
Trouble.
And I think one of the female sappers talks to one of the female soldiers in the train in a like good luck or you go girl type thing.
The first conversation that happens in the next book passes the Bechdel test, but
he really has three characters.
Yeah, there's
the
not
love
enough
interest
women in this book to
No,
really...
The
There
love
isn't a
interest,
lot of
the
women in this
victim, and the goddess. Those are the only characters he has. Sometimes they interchange.
There isn't a lot of explicitly stated women, I should say.
There are no main characters.
Yeah, the Malazan soldiers are all mixed.
Whether they're 90% or not, they're not on screen.
They're not
they
on
do
screen.
not count.
No, I agree. They don't. There aren't enough women.
This is so Greco-Roman Western historian. Like,
So the Malazan Empire, for those who want an analogy, is an awful lot like the Roman Empire. They go through and they conquer peoples and then they absorb those peoples and their traditions and some of their fighting styles or technologies into themselves.
The book narrative is very, very biased towards that method.
I would not say that it paints the Empire in a good light.
It paints it in a way better light than it should.
No.
In this book
disagree.
specifically, because I don't remember the first one and I don't remember the rest,
No.
they say multiple times that the Malazan Empire is best for the world. The Malazan Empire are the best soldiers.
The Malazan Empire wants...
Yes, and that's wonderful if it's not in narrative.
It's a bit of both. I think they show both the worst and the best.
And the best.
Of the
But the
Malazan
best
Empire.
of the Malazan Empire is always individual. It's always on the people scale. The Empire as a whole is not painted very well at all.
Except for in the narrative in this book, multiple times they say that if the Empire were to crumble, the world would fall into chaos.
Characters are saying that because that's what the Malazan Empire is feeding.
in narrative during Kalam's going towards the
isn't that
killing the queen.
That's Kalam's...
That's all from his point of view.
That's all from his point of view. Yeah, it's not... No, I disagree with you. It does not paint the Empire well.
It straggles the line.
It does not paint the Empire well. But that might also be because I have, like, researched sort of that area, but in the real world, like the Roman Celtic clashes, and I never find that Rome comes off as well as historians put it.
Well, Rome had good and Rome had bad.
Well, that's it,
just
exactly.
Like
just like
massive
any
empire
yes.
is. And the Malazan Empire is like that. It had good points and it had bad points.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes a long way later in the series to start erasing those good points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if it's taken over by a crazed, backstabbing priest guy.
No,
To
he's
be
not
fair-
crazed. He's actually very
Well,
sane.
he's not.
To be fair, Lassim was a backstabbing.
Yeah, no, Lassim got to where she is by backstabbing. The first emperor got to where he is
was by
by
backstabbing. Yeah, the whole thing is just ridiculous.
Actually, he got to where he is by being backstabbed after backstabbing.
No,
because then he ascended as he was
got to
being
where
killed.
he currently is by
Yes.
being backstabbed.
But
And
he got the throne
he
by
got the
being
throne
a
by
conniving little
being- yeah.
shit.
I find it... Sorry.
You hear more about that later in the later books. You don't really know how Kellanved got his empire going.
No, it
here.
doesn't mention it at all here. What I'm interested in is usually the stuff that has nothing to do with the story. Like how the Warrens work. Shadow is in this a lot. But it is specifically stated that the Hounds and the demon mother girl, Apt,
The Aptorian?
have been there for a long time.
Well, the
That Shadow has been longer and
Yeah.
been there for way before its ruler, Shadow Throne, has.
So when he ascended, he took over the empty throne.
He
Shadow
took over
realm has
a
been empty.
piece of the Shattered Warren of Curled Emerald.
Yes, and they do
I could
talk...
explain it to you. It'd take a while.
I don't
Yeah.
need you to... But you shouldn't be explaining it to me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was saying earlier about how they don't explain anything in these early books when 4 sentences in the right place could tell you in the first book how this all works.
But I kind of like that drive to read more, to find out more.
I don't.
It's like
It
research.
actually
I really enjoy
doesn't make me want to read more. It makes me want to stop.
It's
So
a
it makes me want to read
disincentive
more.
to me to
Really?
read more. Yeah.
It makes me want to read more.
If the narrative is peppered with things that interest me that never get to the part that interests me, then why would I want to keep reading about 8 people walking in a desert?
Yeah.
Because they're interesting to read about.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to tell you.
if I could
they aren't.
slap Heberick and Felison and
that's
Assassin Guy 5 times across the face and say,
not
stop
saying
being
that-
so angsty, I don't want to hear about it anymore.
That's not saying they don't deserve to be slapped. They're just really interesting to read
Yeah,
about.
no, I don't
I
find
disagree.
angst interesting.
I
No, I
found
do.
Felison's entire story to be terrible.
I found Felison's entire story to be entirely understandable, and I really loved
Oh,
how...
I agree. It's understandable.
I find
It's
Felison's
just
entire storyline
wasn't interesting.
Oh, I was
horrific.
interested. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
It is horrific.
even for an imaginary character, horrible to do to someone.
Yeah, no. The
Yeah.
shit that happens to her is just
It's
awful.
awful.
The babies on pikes and the children who are crucified get off better.
Yeah.
And I don't want to read any of that. I
See,
read
but
for
I-
escapism, not for to
But
gain
here's the
PTSD.
thing. Felison actually grows as a character in this book. She starts
Yes,
off in
yeah,
one place
and
and she ends off in another.
By the end, I'm like, okay,
She's much
good.
stronger at the end. She's much more controlled. She's much
Yes,
better.
but
And
she's
then
also
the
still terrified
next
of her sister.
time you
course.
see her, all of that is gone.
Her sister is painted like the Borg, basically.
Well, and
Oh,
here's the
Tavor.
thing. The other thing is, though, I can't remember what book it is, but that I start off hating Tavor because of this book, and then later on in the series, I'm like, fuck yes, Tavor, you show them. Yes!
Yeah, no.
And Erikson is a master of doing that. In the first
Tavor-
book, I hated Animander Rake. By the end of the first book, I loved Animander Rake.
I never hated him.
Oh, I
I
did.
thought he was fun.
I never hated him. I
He
was like,
seemed
hey.
more like a background character to me, but
Yeah.
he gets more play later in the
He
series.
does. Yeah.
Tavor, also, she's a huge part of the later series. She's really important. She's a bitch the entire goddamn time until the very last scene she's in. Which, spoilers,
Leave it.
I'm going to leave it. But regardless, Tavor is a huge part. She's very important. She's not a bad guy.
Oh, the last scene where she opens up her skin and turns out she's one of the aliens from Alien?
No.
Fucking xenomorphs
But
coming
that
to the
would be
Malazan
really
Empire.
cool.
Oh,
No.
look, you know, that could have been what the Kachane... what are they called?
The Kachane Shamal?
Yeah, them. Kachane Shamal. These reptilian... It was a reptilian civilization. Anyway,
Of course.
One of the elder races.
one of the elder races.
They were lizard men.
Ah,
Yeah, basically.
Basically D&D Lizardmen?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. They do really good in the Malazan Book of the Fall in that they have all the basic D&D races. You've got your Dark Elves, who are the Tiste Andi. You've got your Light Elves, the Tiste Leosin. And you've got your Grey Elves, who are kind of in the middle, the Tiste Eater. And they kind
Wait,
of
aren't the Eater the Dark Elves and the Andy the...
No, the Andi are the Dark Elves because they're all black
Oh,
skinned.
yes, Mother Dark. That's right, you're right. They were abandoned by
They're
Mother
the
Dark.
children of the dark. The Leosin are children of light, and the Eater are children of shadow. They're elves. They are flat out elves, and they flipped around kind of the morality of them. The Leosin are kind of assholes.
Oh, God, yeah.
The
Purists.
Andi are the good guys. They're the good elves. Although you wouldn't know it in the first book, really.
No.
But then there's the Eater, who are kind of just complete dickholes the entire time.
The world building is impressive. If a little bit
And then you got your
D&D
orcs.
flavored.
The Jaghut are all
The
orcs.
Jaghut are basically
Yeah.
orcs. Yeah.
Except immortal ice-using ancient orcs.
Yeah.
Our orcs are different.
They're very different.
Hashtag.
You've got your lizard folk, who are the Kachane
Kachane
Shamal. You've got, I don't know where to put the Forkrula sail.
Dwarves?
Oh, yeah.
No.
I haven't heard. They're saying words, and I'm like, not in this book, huh?
Are the Trell men, or are they kind of like the Jaghut as a separate...
They're the
Trell are the
Trell
four-armed
are
people, aren't they?
descended from the Toblakai.
Yeah,
so they're
that's,
giants.
So they're giants.
They're part
yes.
giants.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Did they have forearms, or did I miss that?
No.
Did someone have forearms?
Some people do, I guess. There's blue humans in this.
Yes, there are blue humans, which... Yeah.
They eat a lot of silver. Star rating and final thoughts. Eric, I'll start with you for this one.
There are some really good parts about this book, and there are some parts that I personally dislike. I'm going to give it a 3 because I actually finished it. And considering how much I hate some of the stuff in this book, and I really hate military gore fests, which this is pretty much all of, I'm really impressed with the writing. That being said, I would not recommend this to anyone who isn't willing to put themselves through that emotional scarring and through the, I don't know, how long is the series? 7 books? 10. So through the 20,000 pages.
Jinx.
So yay and meh all at the same time.
Cool. Garth?
Well, it's a rough sort of slog to get through all of these books if you're not super into the style. The early books, once you catch the kind of the flow of it from the first book, going right into this one is really easy. It's still a huge book, and it's still like a lot of things happening. Again, looking back on it, it becomes worse and worse the more I read of the later books. As plot threads are dropped outright, characters that seem to be important here disappear, as everything in this book is unmade later on. And that really just does not work well for me as an author. I like things that built to, if they have to be destroyed, cataclysmically, as opposed to just forget it exists, because it doesn't anymore. So just this book on its own, I'd give it a 3, but as part of the larger series, it's the build up to something that never happens. It is the rising action to a climax that never comes. So I'm sorry. It's like that sneeze that just never comes out.
Keep going.
I can do a few more if you want. In any case, because of that, because of what comes later, and because of the disappointment of what comes later, I can't give it more than 2.
I disagree with both. You all know that I'm a huge fan. I talk about this book on my blog. I talk about it to friends consistently. Like, I won't shut up about it.
Strangers
Strangers
people,
on the street.
Someone disagrees with her online. She's like, read the Malazan books!
Although I will note that it really isn't for everyone. I've lent the books to friends of mine who have read it and they're just gone, yeah, it was crap. And then my heart broke a little bit. But I do love it. I love I love the characters. I think that they act in a believable manner in the face of all the shit that gets thrown at them. I loved this particular story. This story in particular, as the Chain of Dogs in particular, is by far my favorite sort of saga in the tapestry that is the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And yeah, the style of writing, like, it carries me away. I am and will forever be in awe of Erikson for the manner in which he uses words. I think it's stunning. So for me, this book gets a 5. Because I also don't mind all the angst and the baby killing. That's not the best way to put it, I guess. It doesn't disturb me as much.
Sonia bathes and revels in the death of innocence.
Difficult times and darkness are kind of my thing. I gobble that stuff up when I'm reading. I love it. Garth, did you want to pick the next book?
Sure, I'll pick the next book.
Come on, something that isn't depressing.
It is Scribbly Scribble, Scribble Scribble.
Oh yeah, my writing is awful.
Mastiff by Tamora Pierce.
Yes!
Okay.
Okay.
Said something not depressing.
Okay,
I'm gonna cry again.
I'm sorry. This is, what's the name of the series?
The Becca Cooper trilogy.
Becca Cooper. We've done the first 2 books in this trilogy. This is the final book. And I really enjoy this trilogy. I'm so glad that it was put in the bowl. I can't wait to read the conclusion.
It's definitely my favorite of the Tamora Pierce series.
Yeah. So excellent. The next book next month we'll be reviewing is Mastiff by Tamora Pierce. Cannot wait to read it. Thank you for pulling it out of the bowl, Garth. You get points. If you have any thoughts about Deadhouse Gates, do leave them in the comments down below. Or if you'd like to suggest a book for us to read, to put into the bowl, also leave that down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much, guys. Bye!
this closer.
Why? So we can hear Garth Hale more? Sorry, guys.